So the Italian Grand Prix was an absolute thrill ride. I had such a good time watching it. About halfway through the race, it kind of seemed as though it was going to one team and one driver. It was going to be Oscar Piastri, or at least it was going to be either him or his teammate at McLaren, Lando Norris, getting a relatively comfortable win. That McLaren just looked like the absolute class of the field, and indeed they had the fastest car both in qualifying and in the race today, but they didn't win. Obviously, if you've seen the review, I've already done a 5 things review of the Italian Grand Prix of 2024 if you've not already seen it. But yeah, in terms of actually who won it, it was Charles Leclerc of Ferrari. So a lot of people are going to be wondering, how? How did this happen? How did Ferrari manage to win this? And did they manage to win it through good strategy? Well, yes, they did. I mean, some people might say they kind of looked into it, they had no choice, but at the end of the day, they still did it. They still managed to win. So an incredible win for Charles Leclerc, his 2nd win at the Italian Grand Prix, his 7th victory overall in Formula 1, 5 years on to the day, I believe, since he won his first Italian Grand Prix back in 2019. He's managed it again here. So let's dive into the strategy and let's do a bit of an explainer video of how Charles Leclerc actually won the Italian Grand Prix. So basically from the start, Lando Norris started from pole position, and yet again he did not convert that pole position into a lead at the start of the race. It was Oscar Piastri who ended up leading because of a very forceful move that he put down the outside on his teammate in the 2nd chicane. And I say forceful not in a bad way, I say it in a good way. It was a very gritty and determined move. That's what we like to see in Formula 1. Great racing between 2 great drivers who just happen to be teammates. But the end result of that was that Lando Norris fell behind Charles Leclerc as well, and this allowed Leclerc to really get amongst it when it came to the first stint with the McLarens. And indeed, Norris couldn't overtake Charles Leclerc in that first stint. He had to rely on the undercut to do so. Piastri came in, Norris came in, they both put on hard tyres, as did Charles Leclerc. Leclerc coming in a lap or 2 after Lando Norris did. Now, Charles Leclerc was fuming at this because basically Ferrari allowed Norris to undercut him. And Leclerc rightfully said, well, why don't we just stay out? Why don't we just do a 1-stop? Now we can't do that. Well, he was right about making a 1-stop work, but he was wrong about not being able to make it work anymore, because that is exactly what Ferrari did. They left both Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc out on the hard tyres for what must have been, 38 laps of Charles Leclerc on the hard tyre by the finish, Sainz on 34. The Red Bulls, who started the race on the hard tyre, they only went about 23 laps, something like that. So these tyres were not lasting that long. McLaren, some people might think that McLaren threw this race away, but I don't think they did. I think their tyre wear was just higher than Ferrari's, and Charles Leclerc pulled off an absolute miracle to win this race. So yeah, he just stayed out there. He just stayed out there, and the gap was not coming down fast enough. Ferrari doing an excellent strategy call, listening to their drivers, and this is twice in a row now. They had some really good strategy for Charles Leclerc last week at the Dutch Grand Prix to get a surprise podium, a podium that he never saw coming, and I bet he never saw this coming either. Yeah, just simple as that. And because the delta, the difference in time that you need to complete a 2nd stop, I think it was 23 seconds around Monza, which is not the highest of the season, but not the lowest either. And on top of that as well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Oscar Piastri had a slow pit stop as well. So again, just these little differences all contributed to McLaren not winning this race. Piastri ended up crossing the line 2.6 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Lando Norris recovered to 3.4 behind. Had the race been a couple laps longer, they probably would have won it. But as it was 53 laps around Monza, and Charles Leclerc and Ferrari had the best strategy to win the race. They did not have the fastest car today. But they had the best strategy, and they had a car as well, and a driver, or at least 2 drivers anyway, that allowed them to save the tyres for that amount of time. And you've got to think about Oscar Piastri, who has been getting better at tyre saving, of course, in recent times. His tyre saving been a lot poorer than Norris, and I think Norris's tyre conservation was better during this race. That's why he was so close by the finish. But yeah, I know it's a 3.4 gap between Piastri and Norris, my apologies. But either way, Norris was catching. He did do the fastest lap of the race on the last lap as well, a 1:21.4. But yeah, that's how Charles Leclerc won the Italian Grand Prix, and has also put both himself and Ferrari into a potential Constructors and Drivers' Championship battle. Again, something we never saw coming. And what race is up next? Baku. Leclerc is really good around there. He's got multiple pole positions there over the years, but it was also the site of his "I am stupid" radio message as well. So we'll see what happens. I'm loving Formula 1 right now, guys. I don't know about you. But yeah, for much more F1 content in this break, we will of course bring it you 2 weeks today. The Baku City Grand Prix will be held around Azerbaijan. So yeah, we'll see you very soon with some more Formula 1 content right here on the F1Chronicle.com.